On Saturday last, Richard Turpin, the noted highwayman, was executed upon the Knavesmire. I was among the multitude that came to see him die. He rode from the castle in a mourning coach, dressed in a new fustian frock and a clean white shirt, with a handkerchief tied about his neck. His manner was surprisingly bold and unconcerned, and he bowed to the people on every side as though he were at some public merriment. When he ascended the cart, he looked round upon the crowd and said, "Good people, I am not afraid of death." He spoke with much composure and smiled at several women who were crying near the front. The hangman appeared uneasy, but Turpin bade him do his office and declared he had no fear. He then threw his handkerchief among the crowd as a token, and after standing for near 5 minutes, he nodded to the executioner himself. The cart was drawn away, and he died with little struggle. The crowd, though vast, was quiet, and many remarked that he met his end with more bravery than any man they had seen upon that spot.
During his confinement, Turpin behaved with an air of indifference, and he sang songs, wrote letters, and showed no sign of repentance. The night before his death, he called for pen and ink, and wrote to his father in Essex. He supped heartily, slept well, and in the morning dressed himself with great care. When told the time was come, he said only, "I am ready."
A letter written by the prisoner, signing himself John Palmer, to his father, was intercepted by the postmaster of Saffron Walden, who, knowing the hand, opened it and discovered that the man calling himself Palmer was none other than the highwayman Turpin. He was then apprehended at the house of Mr. Smith near Braw, where he had been in hiding. He made no great resistance, but when charged with horse stealing, he swore violently that they should never take him for a thief. He showed great spirit, but no remorse.
"I was present at the castle on the morning of his execution," wrote a local merchant in York, "and saw Turpin brought forth from his cell. He looked as well as if he were going to a fair. He bowed to us as he passed, smiling and saying, 'Good morning, gentlemen. This is my last ride.' He appeared exceedingly cheerful and asked the turnkey if his horse were ready, laughing as though it were a jest. When the clergyman attempted to pray with him, Turpin listened politely, but said he had made his peace in his own way. 'I shall go off like a man,' he added, 'and that is all that need be said.' At about 11 o'clock he was taken to the cart, drawn by a black mare, and placed standing upon it, the halter about his neck. The multitude was immense. Some said 10,000 people. Turpin looked around, lifted his hat, and bowed to all sides. Several women called out blessings, and he smiled and said, 'Thank you, my dears, you'll get no harm for that.' Before the signal, he spoke again to the hangman, saying, 'Make it quick and tight, my lad.' Then, tossing the white handkerchief he had worn at his throat into the crowd, he gave the sign himself. The horse was driven forward, and Turpin died instantly. His courage amazed everyone. There was not the least appearance of fear or trembling about him, even when he felt the rope. It was the general opinion that few ever went to their death with more resolution. His body was buried the same evening in St. George's churchyard, Fishergate, noted another witness. But it was later taken up by surgeons. A group of townsmen, indignant at this, went to the anatomy house, seized the corpse and returned it to consecrated ground. He was reinterred amid a crowd of hundreds, who treated him almost as a hero.
It was about dusk when I first perceived 2 horsemen coming from the trees upon my left hand. One called out to stand and deliver. The other I now know to have been Richard Turpin, for his person and voice are well remembered by me. He was mounted on a dark bay mare, very fine and spirited, and wore a mask that covered the upper part of his face. His hat was cocked high, and he carried a brace of pistols across his breast. His speech was brisk and commanding. "Your money, friend," said he, "and you shall come to no harm." When I hesitated, he laughed lightly and said, "No foolishness, sir. I value my time." His manner was not that of a rough ruffian, but almost genteel, which made the scene more dreadful still. I gave him my purse, upon which he bowed from the saddle, and said, "You are a gentleman, I thank you." He then turned his horse, and with a whistle to his companion, galloped off toward the forest, calling back, "Good night to you, and a better purse next time." The whole was done in less than a minute, and yet I remember every word. I cannot forget the ease and insolence with which he bore himself, nor the strange civility that made the robbery seem more an insult than a crime.
I was returning from market when a single rider overtook me near the hedge. He saluted me civilly, and we rode together some way in conversation. After a while, he asked what I had got from market. When I replied, "Not much," he drew a pistol, laughing, and said, "Then I'll see for myself." I handed him my purse and watch. He looked them over and said, "A poor harvest, friend, but I'll take what there is." He then bade me good evening and galloped off. His horse was the fleetest I ever saw, and his courage astonishing, for there were people not half a mile behind us on the road. I knew afterward that the man was Turpin. They said he had been but that morning in London, and now here he was at Romford before sunset.
It was between 8 and 9 at night when I heard the dogs bark and a great knocking at the door. My servant went to the window and a voice called out, "Open, or we'll break it in." I ran to secure the plate chest, but before I could move it, the door was burst open and 5 or 6 men rushed in, all masked and armed. One of them, tall and broad, with a pistol in each hand, was called Turpin by the others. He swore dreadfully, bidding us all to stand still or be shot dead. They tied my hands and those of the maid, and Turpin himself went through the drawers and cupboards, taking plate, linen, and money. He said, "If you tell us where the rest is, no harm shall come to you. If not, I'll roast you before the fire till you speak." When I refused, he set fire to a little straw by the hearth, saying, "That'll warm your memory." I was in mortal fear, believing they would burn the house. After they had stripped us of what they could find, they drank wine from my own cellar and carried off the silver cups to hold it. Turpin, before leaving, bowed mockingly and said, "Your servant, madam. I thank you for your hospitality." They left at about 10 o'clock, riding off toward Epping.